Hi, everyone. I'm Carrie Hastings. I coordinate the Urban Water Funders, and I'm here today with Kabir Thatte, who is the Executive Director of the Vessel Collective and the VP for Policy and External Relations at Dig Deep. So, Kabir, tell us about the organization, about how the Vessel Collective came to be, and really what is the primary goal of this campaign?
Yeah, thanks, Carrie, for welcoming me and giving us this opportunity to share more about our incredible initiative. Right now, there are over 2 million, potentially upwards of 10 million people in the United States that live without a tap or a toilet at home. These are families nationwide whose kitchen sinks have run dry, who flush their wastewater into the nearest stream or their own backyards, who have to drive miles to haul their daily water needs. Tens of millions more people, as folks probably are aware, face unsafe, unaffordable, unreliable water. And clean water and sanitation are basic human needs and essential for dignity, health, and opportunity. The Vessel Collective came together because we envision a nation where everyone has access to safe, reliable, and sustainable water services forever. Momentum's starting to grow across the country. We've seen a lot of really great work over the last few years, especially with pieces around the IIJA, but no single organization has been responsible for uniting efforts to close the water access gap for these millions of people who've been without these services for a very long time. Until recently, Vessel came together to fill that gap, to coordinate, connect, and help the sector move together. Our position as a convener allows us to identify critical priorities from across geographies and the sectors and build meaningful consensus for sustainable change. What we're trying to do is build a foundation for a robust, formal, dedicated US wash sector, a network for leaders and organizations to share knowledge and solutions, coordinate strategies, and most importantly, engage in more effective policymaking. We started this via a number of different routes, developing advocacy plans and policy plans, setting convening and gathering opportunities, coordinating TA between different technical assistance providers around the country, and through strategizing regionally. And so, through all of these lenses, we're developing a national roadmap to close the water access gap in order to bring clarity, coordination, and shared direction to the US wash sector. And some of you might be wondering, why are we focusing on those 2 million people as opposed to maybe the tens of millions more that are facing insecurity issues around the country? We're beginning with that 2+ million number because those folks have had the longest road to be able to get access. Progress needs to start with those who've waited the longest. Focusing on this clear, measurable goal is how lasting change happens, and we know it's not going to be easy, but we know it's possible. And we really believe that solving it will unlock the credibility, momentum, and public will needed to create a nation where it's accepted that everyone can have access to safe, reliable, and affordable water. And a bit more on the roadmap, it's not just going to be a policy platform, but an implementation and an action plan to guide our sector to that first goal, closing the water access gap for good. So we're aiming to provide a shared direction for the US wash field. We're going to clarify roles and pathways so organizations can lead where they see fit, identifying our cross-sector priorities where actions can have the greatest impact, and also establishing common milestones to track progress over time. We've been inspired by other successful movements here at home, like around childhood hunger, marriage equality. Globally, we've looked at really successful national water and sanitation campaigns in India and Ghana. And of course, a century ago, our own federal government led the creation of water infrastructure nationwide. It's time for us to get to that final 2% of people that don't have any running water.
So, Kabir, you referenced the phrase wash several times, and I imagine most of our listeners know what that means. But for those who don't, can you define that?
Yeah, WASH stands for Water, Sanitation, and Hygiene. And our inspiration came from the international approach, of which so many people have been given access to water and sanitation as part of an implementation plan, often hand in hand with government. And under that inspiration, and often because the water and wastewater sector have very concentrated actors at the forefront, we wanted to make sure that communities were leading in this effort and at the front of this, and that water and sanitation and hygiene are all elements of one bigger picture, whether it's about health, the economy, or much more.
So, Kabir, can you tell us about the scale of this work? Is it local, state, federal asks? And when it comes to ask, really, who are the targets and what are you asking of them, or hope that they do as a result of your efforts?
Yeah, absolutely. So the scale of our work is inevitably going to hit on all these pieces. The communities are at the most local level and need to drive the solutions that need to be in place. But none of this is going to be solved without a state and federal space here. So really focusing on on the federal initially, this plan is for a holistic approach. So what we're aiming to do is look at this on a national scale so that we can find where we can make changes at the best level of progress. We will also showcase a number of opportunities in a variety of states using levers that we're developing to demonstrate that progress is in fact achievable. So, under that vein, our goals are really around key three pillars: visibility, government commitment, and capacity. We see these as flowing with one another. The first, creating the will, government commitment enabling the action, and then capacity being sustaining the results that we need to ensure that once people have access, they never face the threat of losing access again. We need to do a lot of elements around the visibility component of developing national messaging, a framework in order to coordinate communications across partners. We need to support and continue to build accountability mechanisms and forums to analyze the work. We need to catalog and disseminate state and local engagement tools, and much more. If we're looking at government commitment, we need to strengthen national data and reporting via centralized data collection. We need to streamline federal agency coordination by way of an interagency task force. And we need to protect existing funding while also dedicating new funding and closing the water access gap. But to supplement all of that at the state level, we need other elements, better environments to be able to close the water access gap, such as adopting commitments or laws enabling the human right to water and sanitation, much like California has, New York has, Virginia has. We want to establish state level small system coordination mechanisms. And we also want to work on making sure that states are also part of the workforce development, given the variety of needs that different places, different communities are experiencing. And this is just a snapshot into what we're building as part of this incredible action plan. And I'm really excited to welcome any partners that want to join our efforts because this isn't just about getting government to commit and then we move on and hope for the best. This is about the accountability mechanisms that will go into making sure that government stays sustainable on this issue and that every partner from corporations in the private sector to philanthropy and beyond are part of this effort through, during, and beyond until we get everybody online.
So, speaking of partners, actually, I'm hoping you can unpack a little bit more who is engaged in this work. And based on the engagement, how are you also structured in terms of decision making and setting priorities within the Vessel Collective?
Yeah, absolutely. We studied for a long time how we were going to build the operational capacity of this organization. There are a million ways that any group can be built out. We are a coalition that is housed at Dig Deep, a human rights nonprofit that is bringing clean running water to communities around the country, from the Navajo Nation to Appalachia to the Texas-Mexico border. So the Vessel Collective is operated at the human rights nonprofit Dig Deep, which is bringing clean running water to communities around the United States, from the Navajo Nation to Appalachia to the Texas-Mexico border. We bring hot and cold clean running water, and we knew that at the beginning, this wasn't going to be any one singular organization or just the nonprofit sector trying to fill this gap that's been perpetuated for so long. It was going to take a coalition, a group of like-minded people who really needed to come together and make some change. So when the Vessel Collective was founded, we created a steering committee of major leaders in the US water and sanitation space, about 15 nationwide organizations from the private sector, including partners like Xylem, to associations like IATMO, the Plumbers and Mechanical Officials Organization, to incredible research partners like Johns Hopkins and the Pacific Institute. And we also have support and input from well over 50 organizations that are contributing to our working groups, contributing to our national convening, and much more. We came together and collectively made a decision to spearhead a national strategy to close the gap because we knew that it was going to take the effort of everybody to be able to close the water access gap. We're currently operated by a secretariat led by myself and a really incredible team. And this organizational approach, with an operating team to pursue and build the work, with approval and support from coalition membership, ensures that all of our members are able to focus on their daily priorities as an organization while this work is continuing to run and flourish. That dedicated, flexible support and having a team behind this coalition has already led to really incredible engagements. And we're routinely bringing together friends from major utility associations, advocacy groups, others. The key point really being that they may not be people that typically work together, but they came together under this universal belief that the gap needs to be bridged. And the Vessel Collective came together because we truly believe that no matter what, corporations or nonprofits, community leaders or elected officials, government agencies and funders, academia and philanthropy, no matter who you have a role in helping us achieve that dream. An America with clean running water forever.
Very cool. So there's a long road ahead, and I'm curious what you see as the greatest threat to your success, but also what is the most promising opportunity for impact in this moment?
Yeah, fantastic question. I'll be honest, I can sit here and pinpoint any number of challenges across the board. I could go to the turbulent and ever-changing political environment we find ourselves in, to competing priorities in and out of the sector itself, to our biggest problem being continued invisibility of the issue.
Mm.
But I want to reground all of this work because we're at such a, I think sometimes on the national scale, everybody's at a really high level. But the biggest challenges, I think, are the daily reality that people are facing in the water access gap every day. That each day there is a family that isn't able to flush a toilet, that is worried that their children won't be able to take a shower before school, that they may not have the water to cook a meal at the end of the day, regardless of their geography. It doesn't matter where you live, there's health risks when it comes to not having water. And I want people, everybody here to really remember at the end of the day, this can't just be an economic, political, or feasible issue or set of models that we need to consider, but these are people, families, children who face a burden that so many of us take for granted. The core challenges will be keeping attention on this issue, keeping the funding, the financing, the organizing around it. And the central component of that, like I said at the beginning, is us as a nation tolerating this. The fact that it is invisible means we're tolerating it.
Mm.
And that is the biggest hurdle we're going to need to overcome and keep in the forefront of people's minds as long as we possibly can. So, as I said, the central challenge for us as a nation is tolerating water insecurity, allowing this to exist, allowing it to be invisible. And that's a challenge we need to overcome. But we see that also on the flip side as being a really promising opportunity. As I've seen in the few short years that we've been creating this wonderful initiative, it's only been less than 2 years. We've been able to see a bridge between political polarization, economic uncertainty, and cutting through the noise of a lot of the modern discourse. A lot of people really truly see this as an injustice. And more importantly, everyone is coming together to see this as a very solvable problem. We've brought together, as I mentioned before, very different perspectives to this common issue and see genuine care from this impactful work. And to be able to see how many organizations are already getting behind that the Vessel Collective and a national strategy that can bring running water and sanitation to the millions left behind, to move a government regardless of political status, and to see this country come together and institute real unified change, I think that's magic. Because water access isn't political, it's human. And we're already seeing that enthusiasm around this. And we're in a moment where galvanizing real lasting change and bringing about access to water for people who've been denied it for 100 years is possible. And I ask for anyone and everyone to join us in this movement because it is solvable and we're going to do it.
Great. Thank you, Kabir, and thank you to all your team for all the great work that you're doing.
Thanks, Carrie, and thank you all. Really appreciate this.